I
it's
just love that song.
when you said we'll play the music, I was thinking it was like a full-blown intro. It was,
Oh no, I'm too lazy for that.
and I remember like, oh yeah, it's not the Evercast.
It's Pitfall. Oh my gosh, I gotta play that music. This is the full riff, by the way.
Technically the full riff never ends.
No, it just keeps going over and over and over again, right?
Sometimes it goes sad when you die.
Yeah.
But then it picks right back up again.
I'd love to get speaking of Pitfall, I'd love to get that game on the Evercade. Pitfall 2, the one with the hidden world in it. That's the one I want. Would
you buy a collection that was just Pitfall and Pitfall 2?
Yeah, and maybe the PlayStation 1 Pitfall. I buy that would.
Well, there's actually. What if they threw in Super Pitfall?
Yeah, I would do. I own Super Pitfall on the NES. I would take that one. I take the Genesis. There's Super Nintendo versions of it too, right?
Yes, there's the Genesis, Super Nintendo, and Jaguar version, which are all
the
same.
Sega CD too.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's a Sega CD version. Yeah, there's so many different Pitfall games they could throw in there. I think the PlayStation one actually has the voice of Bruce Campbell as Pitfall Harry. So I'd be in it for that.
I can't believe we just started on it. Welcome everybody to the Games and Stuff podcast in which we'll probably never have a permanent name. It's Pete, Crow.
Hey, Games and Stuff works because that's all encompassing. You can just say it's either games or it's stuff. Stuff is everything, not games.
Exactly. And I think it's a great title, if I may. I don't know if there's a game podcast out there, but it makes sense because sometimes we go off on tangents that are not even video games related. Like we can spend 10 minutes just talking about hot dogs. Which you know what? I'm craving hot dogs. I was like, I haven't had a good hot dog in a while. Last hot dog I had was a Smoky from Costco, which was pretty good actually.
Okay, well, I go to Portillo's for hot dogs, so I know. I got a pretty high bar.
Hey,
from Chicago, my bar for hot dogs is pretty high, regardless of where I go in the area.
I was just looking at my EverCanadian shirt and mug. Oh, cool. The newer one, the new design one, or the old school one with the Canadian flag in it? Because the original logo was like, it was a riff on the Winnipeg Jets kind of logo, but
there it is.
Which I don't know why. But Crow just deserted us. So we gotta actually I made a topic list today. So you want to hear the topic list?
Okay, what's the topic list? I thought the topic.
We don't have to hit all of these, but I thought, well, we're going to talk about your pinball a little bit, even though
you mentioned the shirt, and I was like, oh yeah, I bought this shirt while I was there.
That couldn't fit in your car?
No, this isn't the thing that I spent $500 on.
All right.
That almost didn't fit in my car.
Your Anne's laying on a handheld. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the new one, Intelligent Gamer. So I thought we'd talk a bit, wrap up your pinball experience. We could probably touch on Evercade, the recent kind of more delays, I guess that's happening. Also want to chat about too. What's that?
I bought this hoodie too.
Oh, I can't see it. I'm looking at my other thing. Oh yeah, cool. We can talk about the announcement of the Analog 3D. There's the Atari Game Station Pro.
Oh, you have to tell me about that. I never heard of that.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, hey Ian's, how you doing, buddy? Let's talk about. Well, we talked a lot about pinball. We got a tour yesterday, but do you want to do wrap up of your experience of the weekend? Like,
it was really good. I spent way too much money. I don't like. I know I was mentioning stuff, and I actually filmed a pickup video, so I have all the stuff that I bought nearby. So here's
Flippy,
and that's I think he says his name is Chip. I've been calling him Chippy,
or
I was calling this Miss Flippy, but it says their name's Flippette. So, yeah, there's that, and I got. So these were somebody was asking what Atari 2600 games I bought. So I had these. I bought these.
You got Kaboom, Asteroids, and Atari. What's that one?
Berserk? Yeah, Berserk. I bought them because they were in the box.
One of my favorite Atari games ever made, actually. Like Atari owned games.
Yeah, two reasons I bought this. One, I already had a copy of this in the box, but the box I had is pretty beat up. So this is a pretty good box. And also, they're coming. I bought that Berserk Enhanced.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted a version of it.
It's funny, right? Did Atari lose the right to Berserk? Because they just bought back the property, right?
they never had the right to Berserk because that was Stern. Stern created.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Uh,
But it's one of my favorite, favorite original pile of games that came out of Atari that were not Activision's. I still love Berserk. Hey, Phantom, channel member, welcome. Thank you so much, Phantom, for being a channel member.
this is a
Really appreciate it.
tabletop pinball game with
Oh,
4
wow.
different tables.
Okay,
And
so
there are
I want to know what didn't fit in your car.
Well, not this, because this is a record with pinball music on it. It's volume 2. I had to go online to order volume 1 because they didn't have volume 1 there. But
Intro and mood setting. I think we're over the intro and mood setting today. I think we're straight into.
yeah,
What
actually,
are we in?
I won a silent auction, and this is what I won. Pull this out. And I don't know.
You won a silent auction.
What?
You
Yeah,
won a
I won
silent auction.
auction, and this is what I bid on and won.
Oh, a
It is
shadow box.
a shadow box Battletoads.
Oh, sweet. Is it Double Dragon Battletoads?
No, it's just Battletoads, the original Battletoads. This is the hover bike.
Because
My
from a distance, it looked like you know, Jimmy and him jumping through the air, but now I can see it's a
No,
Battletoad.
And yeah, it's one of my favorite games, and I love the speeder bike level. I was the only person that bid on that.
Yeah, the shadow box are really cool. I have a Castlevania shadow. When I did the room tour for the channel members, I think I showed the shadow box for Castlevania, and Pitfall. I've got those.
Okay, now the thing that wouldn't fit in my car,
Did you buy a table?
a table. Technically, yes, it is a table.
Okay, well, see,
It's not a pinball table.
it's a tabletop or MAME.
It might be. It's actually it's a cocktail arcade.
Oh,
cabinet.
I can see it behind you.
Yeah, I told you could see it.
Yeah, now that you took the stuff off top of it, what'd you get?
Exactly. Well, this is what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try and switch it to my phone so I can actually move it.
I watched Crow wheel out the tabletop game last night.
Yes,
sure was.
I was just talking to him, and
hey, Mac and Mike, welcome.
Yeah, he messaged me through Steam saying he saw me there, but he didn't interrupt me because it looked like I was busy because I was wheeling out this thing out back. I'm trying to get let's see here. Shoot. Connect.
What are you trying to? You want to take a little tour of it? You want to switch out cameras?
Well, yeah, we could switch topics until I get this to work.
Hey, Brian. I like Brian. A hot dog cart?
I wish that would be even. You know what's funny is I even mentioned while I was there that since the food at the hotel was so expensive, they should have just had like a guy with a hot dog cart wheeling hot dogs around.
I follow Crow here. Yeah, Mac and Mine. I didn't recognize your name, but welcome, man. I do all kinds of content over here, so awesome. Good to have you here.
But yeah, actually, this thing needs a little bit of work. But what happened was I was walking around, and there was this area, you probably saw it, where there was a whole bunch of. Remember when I was playing that light gun game during the Evercast yesterday? I was just standing there and playing that light gun game.
Which is weird. We followed you around the pinball thing, and you didn't play pinball, which I thought, I got a new channel member.
Because I can't
gamer. You don't have to be a channel member. You've been on the channel a while now.
I can't play pinball with one hand.
I know,
but I can play that light gun game with one hand. But
one sec.
Oh, sure.
Intelligent Gamer, thank you so much for being a channel member. I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. You've been on the channel a lot, so I really appreciate it. You really got a great attitude, and that's awesome. Thanks. Hopefully, I'll earn your membership. Well, Crow and I have decided we're going to do this as often as both of us can do it. So I've made a commitment to do more live streams. So
and awesome. Normally I would insist on doing it later, but I have a hard
stop.
Yeah.
So Crow, am I not an accommodating dude?
No, absolutely. In fact, I was thinking that you might want to do that since last week it was like literally the entire day you were willing to do it.
Yeah, it was like last week. It was weird because like on Sundays is usually we have lots of family stuff going on, but I'm like last week the kids were doing something and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, there were grandma and grandpa, so I had all kinds of time. But it doesn't matter on Sunday. It doesn't matter actually what time to do it. It's getting less and less easier for me to do the Evercast actually on Saturdays that early.
Okay, really? So that might change too, because it doesn't seem like Rich can do it at all starting at that time.
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting, right? Like, just things change. Portillo's made me
See,
really
look at
like hot
this.
dogs. Yeah,
I
I love mustard on hot dogs, so I bug Crow all the time because I like ketchup on my hot dogs too. That's a Canadian thing, right? Like, Canadians like ketchup and mayo on
Yeah,
stuff.
you guys have ketchup potato chips too.
Oh, ketchup potato chips, Lay's is awesome. I was telling my wife
See,
today she was
we
eating
don't have
ketchup
that here,
potato chips.
and I'm glad we don't have that here because I wouldn't want that.
No, Crow, it tastes more vinegary. You should just try it because it doesn't like it tastes like a combination of like a ketchup and a vinegar. It's really good.
I'm not that into the vinegar flavor either. Like I like sour cream and chives and like barbecue and um
OEB, yeah. There's there's always every Vale references on my channel for OEB. Actually, I've got merchandise still OEB. OEB will never die. It'll never die because I'm still opening boxes, just not on camera anymore.
I am wondering why I'm having such a hard time with this
Oh,
launch.
guess who I saw at PRGE? I didn't
Uh,
go to PRGE because I was working, but guess I watched Double Jump Video Games. It's a local store in Vancouver,
okay,
Washington. Anyway, I was watching their show, and guess who was in their video in the background? I'll give you one guess.
it
We
wasn't me.
know him.
Was it Ed?
Nope. We
Uh,
know him. We know him
Rich?
from back at the Open Every Box channel. I probably introduced you to him. A fellow
Yeah.
Canadian. A fellow Canadian.
Oh, Happy Console Gamer.
No. No, I introduced you to him
Oh,
what was the name of the show? Amico All Access.
yeah. I'm trying to think of who. Okay, so he was
He
on Amigo
shares
All
my
Access.
name.
Pete. Oh, Papa Pete.
Papa Pete was sat there playing one of John Hancock's homebrews. And I'm like yelling at the screen, Pete, Pete. I wish I knew he was going because I'm like, I would have loved it.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Oh, Intelligent Gamer got it. Yeah, Pete. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
but also like at the Pinball Expo, I was talking with the people that at Zen Studios for a long time, like a
Oh, yeah.
really long time. And every so often, every complaint I had came out like, oh, why is this way? What's going on with this?
Mhm.
And then
But it
it
was
echoes.
awesome. I was just watching a video because I just follow that channel because sometimes I bought some games during the pandemic from that store, and their content's really funny.
Yeah.
And when I put it this way, when I was watching Double Jump Video Games, they had like 10,000 subscribers. Now they got like 100 and something thousand. Like they grew, and I was just watching them doing selling stuff because I like watching boring stuff like that. And there's like Papa Pete just sitting back playing his game, and I'm like,
Oh, he wasn't even featured. He was just in the
he
background.
was in the background. I'm like, that's Papa Pete.
Yeah, I wonder like how many videos I
I
might be
played
in the
baseball with
background
Papa
of.
Pete. There you go. That's awesome.
Oops, that's not the right way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Portland next year, I think. Definitely gonna go to Portland. Herb Wars, how you doing? All right, back to your tabletop. Did I buy you enough time to get your camera set up?
No, for some reason this is not working.
Hey Herb,
So,
how you
like, the best I can
doing?
do right now is just point this camera down. You can see it's actually three-sided. So there's one list of games on it where you play vertically and you play like head to head, and then you can switch the game list and you play side by side. Like it all depends on whether or not it supports that kind of thing or not.
Right, right.
But I'm actually going to be taking this thing all apart probably and cleaning it up
What game
because
is it though? Did you already mention? I might have been talking over you.
well, it doesn't have any specific. It has over 1,100 games.
Oh, it's MAME. Okay, cool.
I don't know if it's specifically MAME or not. It's definitely got a PC in there because when you boot it up, the first thing you see is the Dell logo. So I don't know what front end it's running. It's probably MAME. But I don't know how to get into the settings yet. There's a buttons on the side. I just figured out how to get into the service menu, like for the probably for the front end. But I'm thinking like I might actually just replace the PC in it completely and replace it with Launchbox and stuff. But what's on there already, I already got my money's worth because like it has a ton of games in there I love. Like it's got the Atari Tetris on there.
Yeah.
It actually has three different versions of Tetris. It's got the Sega Tetris. It's got another version of Tetris. It's got like the head-to-head cocktail version of Tetris, where like two players can play at the same time, but like facing each other. It's
Right.
got Pango, Burger Time, like all the classics on there. It's got a ton of Neo Geo games on there. Um, and that's but like it's all a moot point too, unless if I like replace it. Because I already have like a kit in one of my arcade one up cabinets. I might take that whole thing out and put it in here and then bump it up to 14,000 games, you know?
Yeah, like what made you buy that though? Like
I've always wanted a cocktail cabinet, like for a
oh really?
long time. Yeah, like I was even considering looking at getting the one from like Arcade One Up, and like something always stopped me when I was about to pull the trigger. Like it's like this just seems too much. The screen seems too small. Like the quality of it probably is just as good as the arcade cabinets, so it's probably not the best.
Right.
This is pretty solid. It obviously has taken some dings and damage, but I could take it apart and fix all that. But I knew all that before I bought it. But here's the funny thing. It took me an hour and a half to buy that thing.
Why?
Um,
Why? It's just because of like the Wi-Fi was down or something?
no, because my bank was being like a real bastard.
Oh,
because because the people that the guy who brought all this stuff, I guess the guy owns a company or something like that. They're from Florida,
right.
so I walked by and none of the stuff had price tags on it, except this one had a price tag of it said price 26. It's a 2,699.99. That's the price that was on this thing. But
$2,600?
yeah, that's the price that's on here. If I could get my camera working, I could show that because I left that sticker on. I took
You
all the
didn't
stickers
pay
out.
that for it though, did you?
No, I paid $500 for it because
Nice. You didn't want to take it home with them.
the guy, as I'm looking around that one time, the guy's walking around, goes, "Everything must go. Everything is for sale. Everything has to be gone by today." And I'm like, "Oh, well, how much do you want for this thing?" And he's like, $500. I'm like, "Oh, $500." And I thought about it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, "Do you take like I didn't have $500 cash on me, not at least not anymore." And I was
Right.
like, "Do you take like a debit card?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we could do that." So okay, we'll do that. And I thought maybe he had one of those things where you could just scan it right there, but no, instead he called his office in Florida and gave me the phone to let me give him my card information. So I go and give him my card information, and they're like, huh, it's not going through. It's not saying it's declined, it's just not going through. It's like, oh, that's weird. So they tried it a couple times, and then I got the idea to look at my phone. And sure enough, I'm getting text messages and emails from my bank saying that they're detecting a potential fraudulent activity. I was like, well, that kind of makes sense because it's a $500 charge. It's trying to go through Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me call the bank. And so I call the bank, and they had me on hold for like 15 to 20 minutes before somebody picked up. And they're like, oh yeah, we detected this fraudulent. I was like, no, I'm trying to get that to go through. I want that to go through. They're like, okay, give it 3 to 5 minutes and it should go through. So I get back 3 to 5 minutes later. They try it again. It doesn't go through. So by this point, I actually have the phone number of the guy that I'm calling. I'm trying to get a hold of in the Florida office. So like 10 minutes later, I call him again. It doesn't go through. I was like, okay, let me try and think something. So I'm like, okay, you know what? If I could find the ATM machine in a hotel, I could probably maybe just get the money through the ATM and just pay him in cash, like I should have done in the first place. So it took me forever to find the ATM machine. I find the ATM machine, and the most it would let me take out was $80. Okay, so I take out the $80, and then the machine immediately goes into out of service because I think it only had $80 left in the machine.
Right.
So then I'm thinking, okay, well, it's Saturday. The bank's closed anyway. If I can find the nearest bank, I can go to the bank, use the ATM machine, and not have to pay the service fee. And so I looked up on the phone. Okay, nearest Fifth Third Bank is here. They have an ATM machine. So I go there. They have like a drive-through thing for the ATM. I go through the drive-through for the ATM, and the ATM machine is missing. It's not there. So like, what the hell? I drove like a mile away to get to this to get the cash.
The
So then I'm
universe
like,
is
okay,
telling you don't buy that machine.
that's what I was telling him. I was like, I think the universe is telling me not to buy this, but I'm defiant. I'm defiant to the universe. It made me want to buy it even more. So I called the guy up one more time, sitting in my car, and he goes, Let's try it again one more time. It's been plenty of time. It's been like half an hour. Still doesn't go through. It's like, okay, let me call the bank again. I go to call the bank again, and I get a message saying that all the customer service representatives are no longer available. I have to call back Monday. So
That's about right.
what in the world? So okay, I just was like, okay, let me use my main bank. I didn't want to use that one because it didn't have as much money in it as my other. Because like, it had the other account I was trying to use had way more money in it than I originally anticipated it should have because I got a bonus from work, and
Yeah.
most of that money from the bonus went into that account instead of my main account.
Mm-hmm.
And so okay, I have enough money in the account. I just will have not that much money in there until I put more money back in there. That's fine. So I used my other card. I immediately called them back. I was still sitting in my car outside the bank that was closed. Called the guy back. I was like, okay, let's use this other card. Use the other card. It goes through, no problem.
Oh, for love of God.
Yeah, exactly. So
But overall, you got it finally. You went
yes,
through hell to get it. Well,
what's
not
funny is like,
hell, but it's
yeah,
annoying.
and then I'm like, oh, I should have no problem fit in my car. Almost didn't fit in my car.
That would have been like the awesome. But overall, good weekend, right? Because we saw most of it yesterday.
Yes.
It was a great weekend,
Oh
right?
yeah, and I have 2 hours of footage to scroll through. I already made a video for the pickups of almost everything you've seen. It's I have to edit that down too because that's like I filmed for like 20 minutes, and I know I'm going to have to cut stuff out because there's lots of dead silence in there while I'm moving stuff around.
Well,
Um,
I want to look at that. I'm gonna watch that video because I love watching
yes,
like videos in which like showcasing conventions and stuff like that. It's just really interesting, and it's funny because you mentioned that tabletop because I was telling on the Evercast I was at an arcade last week for a work event, and there was a tabletop they were selling of Popeye, and Popeye is one of my favorite
oh
games
yeah.
of all
Oh,
time. But I like the
I
I
didn't
like the
realize it
tall
was a
boys, right? And I'm looking at it over and over, and I'm like, "Hey, if I get that, I have no room for it." And second of all, if I'm going to buy Popeye for nostalgia, it's going to be the tall boy. It's going to be the one I grew up playing.
yes.
Um, but anyway, it was funny because then I'm like, I never thought any more of it until you showed a table, like the tabletop that you bought. So cocktail, sorry, not tabletop, cocktail.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I guess it could be. Oh, I don't know if
Yeah,
if
I
tabletop
always
is
say
include.
tabletop. I should say cocktail because that's the proper name for it. Because you put your cocktail on it while you're playing.
Yes, and that's kind of the reason why I always like the cocktail cabinets is because you could use it as a table.
Yeah, exactly. All right, because I know we only got an hour today because an engagement.
Yeah,
I want
so
to
I got
introduce you to this. I wanted to talk about this because
yes.
once it
What
was
is
announced,
this?
I said this is a great topic for me and Crow to chat about because I know he's not really into certain console games, but Analog, our friends over at Analog, who I've got a love-hate relationship with, absolutely love the Super NT and the Genesis one, but really the game it's my own fault. The Pocket, like their handheld one, I bought. I just don't like the comfort, but I must say I am really getting used to it right now. They've announced the Analog 3D, which is kind of funny. It's the future is here, 64 bits of pleasure. And I'm like, is this a
What
Jaguar?
could this
Because
possibly be? What is it? What is it? 3D? What's 3D about it?
they're building an N64. So it
Oh,
has
so we're
wireless
talking about
Bluetooth,
okay.
complete FPGA, which is everything, analog OS, which is getting better. I must say they're upgrading that every couple months to get a new upgrade. It's a reimagining of the N64. God, I wish companies stop using the reimagining. That like just say it's just like it's just a console. It doesn't need to be reimagined, re-inspired,
Well, it's reimagined
recharged.
if it does something different.
Yeah. So it's 4K resolution because I don't know. Did you grow up playing the 64? Not grow up because we were both in
Well,
our 20s when that was going
I
out. But
here's the thing: is I was never really that interested in the 64 because I had a PlayStation.
exactly
Uh,
same here, right?
but I had a friend that had the Nintendo 64, and he was short on funds at one point in time, so I bought it off of him, and I
Yeah.
had it for a while, and I didn't have it for that long, and I just gave it to my dad.
Yeah, it's like I didn't own one. I had one in college only because I think I don't know how I ended up one in college. I played Zelda Ocarina of Time on it's the only game I had. I love that game. But I had a PlayStation. So
Yeah.
anyway, they're putting this out. It's going to be 4K. it's N64, and I'm like, anybody in the chat, like, does this matter? Like, is some people
Well,
excited about this?
I gotta be honest. You said it was a Nintendo 64, I was like, oh well, okay, whatever. I'm not that interested in Nintendo 64.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, right? Like, I is the market like I'm out of touch with the
Well,
retro
here's the thing.
market?
Yes,
Is it is
the
it
market.
popular with 64 right now?
Yes, because all those kids, whereas we were playing PlayStation back then, all the kids back then were playing the Nintendo 64. And now they're older and they've got the nostalgia for the
Yeah,
Nintendo 64. Whereas
right.
for us, it might have been the NES or the Atari 2600 or something.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm like, I'd like that companies like Analog are doing this, to be honest with you. But I'm like, is it going to be like the rest of their consoles? It'll be a scarcity because everything they ever put out is like, if you don't pre-order, you got to wait a couple years to get it, right?
Well, I guess it depends on like the younger generation. How badly do they want a reimagined Nintendo 64?
Because I know that Polymega announced their Ultra 64 add-on, which is obviously it's emulation, so it's not nearly going to be as good as this. I mean, this is going to be
So
everybody
yeah,
agrees like two
it's
different
kind of
markets, right? But
it's
I
kind of
pre-ordered the Polymega one because I still use my Polymega regularly. Like I got all my games that can
well.
work on it. It's on there right now. So
Here's the funny thing: is like it doesn't. Phantom Fiction thing is that it doesn't need to be 4K, but the difference between like Nintendo 64 is that I think it could take advantage of that because it's not sprites, it's like 3D, like polygon graphics.
yeah,
That could look better in 4K,
yeah,
rather than like a Super Nintendo or anything else sprite based, whereas you're just, what can you do, clean up the edges of the sprites?
yeah. Well, 64 is smudgy, right? It has this like coat of Vaseline over it. So
Yeah,
hopefully
but
it gets rid of that. But then is the graphics going to be good looking after you do that?
well, that's the thing, is like, unless there's like updates for every game or something, you're still going to have the fog and the limitations of the system. Like, that's why there was always so much fog in Nintendo 64 games, that was to hide the popping for
Yeah,
stuff that would just like pop, the buildings, you'd get so close and it would
yeah.
just appear with the fog, it would obscure that fact.
The early PlayStation games really had that too, like extreme pop
Yes,
in, right?
and it
It
was
got
funny.
better though because that was easier to program for.
The thing was that I think the PlayStation games, even though the resolution wasn't as high as the Nintendo 64, I always felt that the games looked better because there was always more space for texture mapping than you could put on a Nintendo 64.
Not
So
only
like,
just that, but like everything, right? Like audio, everything was better on the
yeah,
PlayStation.
well then, yeah, that's because you had more space on the CD than you had on a cartridge.
Well,
So
what
like
how
all
big
these,
was a cart N64 cart?
well,
64
I mean,
meg?
well, I think depending on, just like any other cartridge-based system, that could vary in size, and obviously, the more space you use, the more expensive the cartridge would be.
Yeah. Well, and N64 games were expensive. Like, I mean, I can remember seeing them in Toys R Us for 90 bucks Canadian back in the day.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
so imagine if the N64's biggest cart is 256 megabytes. A disc is 700, right? CD
yeah,
disc.
around. Yeah, but the thing is, like, you could still do multiple CDs
Yeah.
and still keep it around the same price because the CDs were so cheap
Yeah, they
to,
were pennies to manufacture.
yeah.
Nintendo has the cartridge tax too, right? Where they have to manufacture it's like the Switch tax. They charge you per cart that they create.
So like, even like Final Fantasy games that needed like 3 or 4 discs were still around the same price as every other game.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm like I don't know, like I am like I'm glad they're doing it, but like I just have zero desire for N64. Like I have 156 loose N64 games in my collection that I desperately want to get rid of. I don't want them. I got them as part of lots years and years ago. I go buy a lot for an original Xbox game and it had like 4 or 5 64 games in it. So like, and one of these days I'm gonna do the work and sell them because I have. Well, actually, I might wait until I get my Polymega, install them on my Polymega, and then get rid of them.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like, wait, which platform are you talking about? Are you talking about like the
N64.
CDs? Oh, N64. Is there an N64 add-on for the
It's
Polymega?
coming. It's called the Ultra 64, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's called the Ultra 64. Yeah,
You're still
I'll
trying to
show it
get
to
this.
you. If the I don't even know if the Polymega actually still exists. They come out of hiding and talk every. Yeah, it's the Ultra Element. I'll share it.
Probably kids are looking at the same picture.
Excuse me.
Now, see, I played Mario Kart 64. It was like the only one I liked.
This is it here. Polymega's EMU Ultra Element module reveals N64 support. It was they announced this in 2021 and we still don't have it yet. So par for the course, right?
What's funny is like we have every single variant of Nintendo 64, at least the US variants, and it's because my wife likes the Nintendo 64 so much because that was the system she had growing up. Where I had the PlayStation 1 and she grew up with the Nintendo 64. So I didn't really care about it, but she's like, "Oh, I got every variant." So okay, they're good. They're yours. I don't care.
It's $124 for this one.
The one thing I do like though is the controller because I did buy what's the company like Brawler or something like that.
Yeah.
They released a Nintendo 64 controller that was more like a normal controller rather than the default one that you got with the system.
Oh, Intelligent Gamer, you got your stuff coming. Nice, dude. Well, that's awesome. Very cool. I'm glad. I really enjoy mine. And they've been updating software and they're adding a store. Like it's gonna be a digital store, which I knew was gonna happen. They're gonna add a digital store to it. It's like it's pretty cool. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it because I know like I'm kind of indifferent to it. Like I really
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not really into the like. I never like. I didn't like many of the games. They all of a sudden went from 2D to 3D. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, Mario 64 is like the best Mario game." I was like, I didn't like it because it wasn't as good to me as like Super Mario World or Super Mario 3. I wasn't a big fan of the Ocarina of Time because
I loved Ocarina of Time. I didn't like
I,
Majora's Mask though.
I much preferred the the top down view because like my favorite was Link to the Past, and then you went from that, and also threw me off. Like, why are you throwing a horse in this like this land now? Why does he have a horse all of a sudden? There's like no other animal that's like a real animal in our world, but then they throw a horse in there, and I just get
That's so true. I never really thought of that. Oh my gosh, yeah. It's kind of funny when you think about it. Um, we gotta talk about Atari 2600 and Atari Game Station. We really haven't even chatted about it, obviously, because our podcast wasn't happening when this
yeah.
got
Well,
in.
we did talk about it a bit on the Evercast, didn't we?
Yeah, always get we always get quieted there because it's supposed to be an Evercast podcast.
Well,
Evercade
it's
podcast.
related because you could play Atari 2600 games on the Evercade.
Yeah, exactly. So did you
This was
order
a no
this?
brainer. Oh yeah, the second I heard about it, I ordered it.
I waited because I'm like, I didn't know if I wanted it or not, but then I was looking at my 2600 collection. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That could be fun. It could be fun to be able to put my cart in and play it. But I'm
Yeah,
thinking it's like, it's really the same as a Polymega, except the games don't save on the 2600 like the Polymega
it's
would.
actually pretty similar to the Retron 77.
Yeah, pretty much. That I've had bad luck with that though.
But I like the fact that it was not necessarily Atari that was making it, but they're the ones that are releasing it. And it looks exactly like an Atari 2600. I think it's like maybe 75% smaller. But I also like the fact that they have the cartridge with like the
Yeah.
dip switches.
Yeah.
I actually bought the paddles and the paddle games too. I'm really curious to see what the paddles if they've improved upon the design or if it's the same old design that'll eventually become jittery over time.
Oh,
Like one
you
of the
get
first,
this cart with it? The 10 games in one?
yeah, it comes with it.
What's the 10 games?
It should be listed somewhere on the
Oh,
page here. Oh, there it
Adventure,
is.
Combat, Dodge 'em, Haunted House, your favorite game. Maze Craze, Missile Command, Video Pinball. I love that game. Yardage
Yeah, for
Revenge,
the
Real
pinball,
Sports
yeah.
Volleyball.
But then the paddles come with another cart that's like 4-in-1.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's four paddle games in it.
I didn't even
Yeah,
know
so
there was paddles. You
I
played
know
it
that
at
people played it
PRGE.
PRG. And I've been kind of avoiding hearing about it because
Yeah.
I'm already going to get it.
He goes, "The paddles feel good." So, where did you order the paddles from?
Same Atari.
Oh,
It's in their
really?
products. They got a whole lot of stuff. They have the only thing I didn't buy that they released recently is they did Outlaw again, and it's just the reason I didn't buy it is because it's the same Outlaw game again. It just has different box art and different cartridge art.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually excited about it because I've got my favorite Atari games are right behind me. I've got Frostbite Sequest. Well, most of the Activision games are right behind me. Activision Frostbite Sequest, Missile Command. I've got Moon Patrol and 2600. I've got so many of Hero. Like I've got all those games loose behind me, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to play those again with that joystick. Hopefully, the joystick feels good, but it looks like it does. So
It might
I'm
be exactly the
excited.
same. Like one of the things I'm going to do when I get it is take all that stuff apart because I
Why are
want
you
to
taking
see
it? Why are you doing that?
if they've actually improved upon the design or if it's exactly the same design as the
Well, it
original.
can't be exactly because
It might.
I doubt those pieces still exist. The manufacturer.
They do. They do because
Really?
if you, yeah, because it's all so core basic stuff
Right.
that it still exists.
It was
Like all
cutting edge back then, though, right?
I don't know about that either, but it's like you think about it is the simplest design that you could think of. There's no circuit boards or anything in that stuff. It's just wires going to pins.
Really? Yeah.
And the pedal, especially, it's just a potentiometer and then two wires, two or three wires in the whole thing.
So, Crow, I'm going to ask you this question. It's cool that you're going to do that because I don't. Somebody else can break their stuff. Is it just
I won't break
for
it because
me? Like the Atari Corporation, the new and
yeah.
reinvented Atari, are they like the retro game company the last like 3 years or last 2 years? Like they got to be the best retro company out there.
Yeah, they're really doing instead of just licensing their stuff out to put Atari logos on every product
Yeah,
imaginable,
which they
they're
did with My Arcade a little bit, but that's okay.
yeah. And that's fine to do too. I bought some of that stuff, but to
Me, yeah,
actually
I did too.
go
I got
back
their little ones.
and do something like this Atari 2600 Plus, that is something that I can get excited about. Like, oh look,
Yeah,
they're not building it themselves. Obviously, they're somebody else's. They're like they're oh, what do you call it? Not licensing, outsourcing that project to some other company, but still, a lot of companies do that nowadays, and they're just going to put their logo on it, and sell it themselves. It's not something you'll probably see in a store or anything, but still, I like where this is heading.
yeah, like, and they put the Game Station Pro out, which is one market of people who
Well,
want
again,
just
that's
built-in
where
games and don't have a
that's
library.
and that's the reason I didn't really go for the Game Station is because that is a My Arcade product.
Yeah,
Um, I was tempted to get it, but just the fact that it didn't look like an Atari. The joysticks weren't Atari. Yeah, they might be
but I
better.
heard the joysticks are really good. I don't have mine yet.
I've
Mine's
heard
still
that too. I've heard that too. In fact, if I had thought about it, like I didn't realize that there was the dial on it
Yeah.
for the paddle controllers. I heard that's pretty good.
Is it
And the fact
compatible with the 2600, I wonder? The
oh, the controllers? I
Are
don't
they
know.
will they work on the Plus? But
It depends on whether or not they're 9-pin or USB. I imagine if they're 9-pin, they would work.
they
But
must
something
be
tells me
USB, I would think.
I think they're USB just
Yeah,
because of paddles being because normally the paddles for the Atari 2600, you got two of them that plugged into one port.
right.
And
So, like, what I'm
when
saying
I
is,
built
so
my own paddles, I had to do the same thing.
what I'm saying, like, they've got 2 products coming out, right? And one is for not necessarily you being like it's for people who don't have a collection, but still have nostalgia for the 2600, wanna just play those games in a different way and all on one device. And then the actual enthusiast market is like more us who have 10 or 20 or 100 Atari games is the Plus. Because I think they're compatible with all but like 1% of a 2600 games, right?
Yeah, that's another interesting thing to see how compatible it is.
Yeah. But like it looks so cool. Like I'm just saying, like back to the question, right? Like, are they the best retro company in the last 2 years? I think they're outshining Evercade and Blaze. Like for me, like they're hitting on all cylinders.
Well, yeah,
And they
there's
did
that.
100 games there on the VCS.
I'd have to think about like who else is putting stuff out there.
Yeah,
Like there could
that's
be
fair.
other companies. Hmm.
But like, did you ever think with all the bullcrap that they went through with the VCS, like the actual console, that they'd have in 2023 100 games out on it, 10 or like 7 or 8 recharged original games, and more coming? Like, did you think
Well,
that would
that's
happen?
no, actually, not even when I bought it, because I bought it like well after everybody else did, like at least for that first year, but like 6 months after it came out initially. And I would have been fine if it was just those 10 collections. I wasn't expecting it to keep going like 3 years later.
Yeah, like for me, it's like the recharge series alone are good games. Outside of the first Missile Command, which was like so
Oh, yeah, yeah.
shallow. They redid it. They redid the Missile Command recharge into a proper recharge game, and I have both. But like the fact that Berserk is going to probably be out this year, like, and that looks like killer. Like, I mean,
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to Berserk. That's when I'm that's what's funny is that game I didn't like used to playing it when I was a kid because I don't know, when you're a kid and you're playing the game and you get like touch the wall and you get electrocuted, you
yeah,
somehow feel like you've been electrocuted yourself. So I
yeah,
don't want to
it's
get
just
electrocuted. I'm not playing the game.
yeah, it's wild, right? Like
But
I
yeah,
don't
that game's
know,
lit. You know
like
what's really funny is that you know that in Berserk you could have, you know how there's a space between the guy's head and body.
yeah,
You could have a robot shoot a laser beam right
go through
through
it.
your neck and it
Yeah,
won't kill you.
yeah, exactly. Well, there's because it's the hit detection on bit games was the bit, right? It
Yes,
had to hit
yeah,
a
it's
bit
the
that was
pixel itself.
yeah. Well, I can always remember, like, and I didn't think about it when I was playing it as a kid because my nostalgia, a lot of people's the NES, but I grew up playing old school black and white arcade games and 2600, those games. That's
Yes.
my nostalgia.
Oh,
And
that
I could
reminds me. I actually got some bidding on something on eBay that is like black and white
yeah.
related. It's the very first video game I ever played in my life. At least I think it is. So I've been waiting very patiently for one to show up on eBay at a decent price. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, so nobody can find it uh,
Like,
until maybe next week when I maybe
okay.
have one.
But what I was saying is like I don't like I never questioned playing Berserk back in the day and why there was a happy face chasing me.
Yeah, you don't think about like that kind of stuff. In fact,
As a
it was
kid,
my
you don't,
uncle.
right? You just like, why is a happy
I
face
didn't have
chasing me?
Berserk. We didn't. I didn't have Berserk at my house, but my uncle's house, he had
Well,
it.
I
And
didn't own it either. My friends had it, and then I borrowed. We used to trade games in the village, like all the time. Like one of my neighbors had Enduro. Like I had Frostbite was mine, and Pitfall. Those were the 2 games I actually owned for my
did you ever?
first year because they were
Did you, did you
$50, I
ever
remember,
never
for a
not get
card
some of
game.
your
So,
games
like,
back?
in 1981, 82, that's pretty expensive, right?
What is kind of expensive?
When I was getting Atari games in like 79, 80, they were like $49 Canadian, and that's when our dollar was the same as yours. So that's pretty
Okay.
expensive in 80, 81,
Well,
$50.
in 80, 81, I was like 4 years old, so everything was expensive because I didn't have money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just saying my parents bought them, right? Like, or my oldest brother bought them. Like, I'm an old
Yeah,
man.
but
That's what I'm saying.
when you're that age, you don't know what's expensive or not
No, but
expensive.
you look back
And
at it
your
now, it's like, geez, my parents actually spoiled me pretty good when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. Well, I
When you
knew
think
that
back.
I knew that most of the time I wouldn't get anything I asked for, so I knew that those things weren't expensive. Because I like think back to those days. I think my dad like made like $4 an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Did you get into Berserk Frenzy and Top Right? No, I don't. I don't, never even heard of that, Dan.
yeah. I haven't heard of those either.
Oh, Terry had a huge booth this year at PRG. Yeah, I kind of wish I went down, but I had to work. So, when you got to work, right? You gotta earn those clams so we can buy more useless crap.
Yep, that's exactly what I did with all the money I got recently.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I still think about that Popeye cocktail game though, but I know if I got it, I wouldn't use
I
it.
I
So
actually didn't even know that came in a cocktail stick.
me either until he showed it to me in the arcade sitting down. Oh man, I love
I,
Popeye. It's one of
I
my
wonder if
favorite arcade
I
games.
don't think I saw Popeye on this, but it does have like Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers on it.
Yeah, it's like
This is pretty pricey.
yeah, it's right here. I'm looking at it right here. Picture of it. But the one I have nostalgia for is the blue cabinet, the tall cabinet, blue one. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I remember seeing that near, like, where the first time I ever saw that was Chuck E. Cheese.
Mine was at the local grocery store that my uncle owned, and he had always used to have two arcade machines there. And so while your mom was shopping or your dad was, well, mostly your mom back in those days, you could give you a
Yes.
quarter or two and you go play the game while she was shopping, right?
No,
So
well, my mom wouldn't do that. I don't remember seeing it. My mom would never take me to Toys R Us, because why would she take me to Toys R Us where I would want everything?
yeah, my uncle used to come over. He owned a store, so he's come over and open it up and give me free credit sometimes. So
Oh yeah, nice.
But yeah, I can remember playing Popeye all the time there and just absolutely love it. Got one of the best soundtracks ever. It's amazing. It's the best, man. It's hard, but it's the best arcade game. But yeah, cool. Oh my god, we're running out of time.
We still got 15 minutes left, and I'm so confused why all of a sudden this program decided not to work, and I can't figure out what it's looking for.
You didn't know that Popeye was a Nintendo game. I know,
Yeah,
right?
it
Well,
was supposed to be. It was a actually Donkey Kong was supposed to be a Popeye game originally, I think,
yeah, yeah. There's
because
a
it was
whole
supposed to be
kind of
instead of,
massive pile of different stories and
yeah,
misinformation around Nintendo and Donkey Kong and all that kind of stuff, right? So
but it makes sense though, because instead of Donkey Kong, you had Bluto or Brutus or whichever variation it was at the time. And instead of Penelope, it would have been Olive Oil, and instead of Mario, it would have been Popeye going to rescue Olive Oil.
yeah,
I mean, it makes perfect sense.
we have to spend a few minutes talking about Evercade because you didn't get a chance to talk about Evercade yesterday. So,
Oh, I did.
um,
I talked up a little bit of Evercade.
yeah, so just in general, like we were just chatting before you came on the show yesterday, Ed and I were just chatting about Evercade and some more delays. And I just want to ask you this question. We'll move past it. Do you think we're going to get the Duke Nukem collection in November and did you order the retro VS skin?
Yeah, I absolutely got that.
That's
Very,
gorgeous, by the way. I did too. And
yeah.
that's gonna be my new secondary player. I'm gonna probably sell my white one.
Oh, I'm gonna swap it out right away, because it's funny because I got the Founders Day one, and I was using that one for the longest time, and then I decided I wanted the white one, so I bought the white one. So I put the black one back in the box, and now I'm using the white one. But
Yeah, my black one's right here, hanging out. That keeps it right by this TV. Well, you can't see it, but I got a TV beside me, and then the main one sits over like the family one, so that's when we play. So, you think it's going to be delayed?
well, I don't know.
Well, obviously you don't know. We both don't know. I'm just asking you for
I don't.
your.
Well, I don't know what to think. I mean, in my mind, I would think that it's going to come out when they say it's going to come out, and I would only think otherwise when they say it's not going to come out. And
Yeah,
so
I just
it's
think
not.
like it's okay if it gets delayed. Like I'm over it now. Like I got a feeling we're going to either see it December or January. Like I don't think it's coming in November.
Uh, I mean, it's a good possibility, but then again, maybe the hardware is a little bit differently than like the collections that they have been delaying.
Yeah,
To be,
maybe.
I'm not that. It's not that big of a deal to me if it delays or not. In fact, I'd almost prefer it if it was, so it buys me time to do other things.
Well, the good news is we already have a VS, so it's like it's just the games I want.
Yeah, I mean, the only interesting thing is like, how's it different? What theme is on it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like for me, it's like I really like outside of the dual carts coming out, which are awesome, by the way, and I think Sunsoft Collection's been amazing. Like I'm really looking forward to the Duke Nukems. Like I don't think they can. I don't think those collections, those Duke Nukems, could be bad. Just because I think they're just going to be they're probably two of their best collections ever.
Well, the interesting thing is that, well, for me, it's going to be fun to go forward, because there's less and less games on each cartridge, so should take me less and less time to
Yeah,
take it through each collection.
and I can remember back in the day about 3 years ago when I was doing covering Evercade. I always say more games, more games, more games, and I'm kind of okay with 5 or 6 on a cart at a max now because
Yeah,
when I do a review of those videos, I think the last one I did was Well, Delphine is not fair. That was 15 minutes. But like there's 30-minute videos for me. Those are huge for an Evercade video. I did one that was like I did one video was 45 minutes. Like I did Pico was 37 minutes. Like that's really long for a
Uh,
first impression, right?
you're talking for first impression. Well, that's different though because that's one of the reasons I don't do first impression videos because, uh, like, firstly, sometimes I've already played the game and I already know what to expect, and if it's a game I've not played before, I'm just going to keep playing it until I figure stuff out,
Yeah,
which could
but
be.
first impressions, like like I might have told you guys, I want to spend more time during my first impression playing each of the games. Like, so they've been swelling. So if it's a game that cart that has 12 games on it, could take me an hour to get through it, which is a big video. Like Delphine, I spent 15 minutes playing that. Like that's effort on my part to play that collection for 15 minutes. Anyway, but like Sunstuff was 30 minutes, and I probably could have played Blaster Master for 30 of those minutes if I would have like allowed myself to. Because I'm still playing Blaster Master. I'm actually playing more of the Game Boy one on it. I think that's a fantastic game.
Oh, which one is that?
Oh, let's hold on. I gotta move my play date. It is Blaster Master Boy. I mean, you're gonna. I think you'll love it
Oh,
too.
that one.
But
Yeah.
it's more just the when you're out of your vehicle type of game.
Well,
When you're
it's
playing as
funny.
Master, not the Blaster.
It's
What is the
funny because,
Blaster
like,
Master guy named? Chat, do you guys know what the character is called?
well, it's the thing is, like, everybody keeps talking about Blaster Master, and I remember that being a big game too, but still, it's nothing compared to Journey to Silius to me.
No, but what I like about Blaster Master is the different game styles in it. The fact that it was on the NES and there's different game styles and so much to explore in those games. You got to credit it for doing that stuff, right? For an
Well,
action
yeah,
game.
it's kind of like one of it's almost an early Metroidvania in a way because
Yeah.
there's certain areas you have to backtrack to go through once you get new abilities that allow you to get through it.
It's mixing genres too, right? Like that's important to know. Like, it's a side scroller, then you got like a kind of an isometric top down action parts. Like, like it's did a lot of cool stuff for me anyway.
Let's see.
And that's why I like it so much. Like, who doesn't want to drive around a tank shooting stuff, then jump out as a little dude and going down ladders and going into, oh my God, like, I remember the first time I played Blaster Master and I went through a
Yeah,
little hole as a little guy, and it's like, all of a sudden, I'm a big dude running around in
yeah,
a top
yeah.
down.
So what you're talking about driving around in takes and jumping out and shooting guys? That's Metal Slug.
Yeah, which is a great game too, right? A great series.
Yeah.
I love it in that one. Like that Metal Slug is such. Imagine if Metal Slug was on Nintendo consoles, it would be probably as popular as Contra in like mainstream, right?
Oh, which game are we talking about? The
Any
Blaster
Metal
Master?
Slug game, if it came out on Nintendo
Oh
consoles,
no, I
how
think Metal
popular it
Slug.
really would be.
But the thing is, though, that came out like well after like the even the Super Nintendo was out.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, if that was a Nintendo property or a Nintendo or a Sony property where it came out on a mainstream console, not like, come on, let's be honest, Neo Geo might have sold a couple million units. Like,
Well, that's the thing is like I know I more of Neo Geo from the arcade, and I think that's how
yeah, I know.
most
But what I'm
people know.
saying in scales of things, if it was on a mainstream console, it would have probably
It,
just skyrocketed because it's that
but the
good of
thing
a
is,
game.
so it did eventually become on a mainstream console because it did get onto the PlayStation, I believe, at least the
Yeah,
PlayStation.
eventually, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. Actually, because I have it on the PSP, I think.
Yes, so
Yeah, you're
they did
right.
have
I do.
connections
Yeah.
because they knew that it. And no, I'm gonna try and not do live streams.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I didn't do a live stream walking around the expo. I didn't know how well that would work out. And what's funny is I'm looking through the footage I shot, and there's so many points where I'm like walking around filming something, and then I just start talking to somebody. And I'm just standing there with the camera, not stopping it, and I'm just talking. I have to fast forward through the whole thing.
Yeah. One thing we haven't talked about yet, and maybe we'll talk about it next week. We'll talk about Steam Deck and stuff like that. I want to talk to you more about Steam Deck because I just put out my 2023 definitive review on the channel,
Okay, of the Steam Deck,
and
yeah.
and I spelt definitive wrong on my thumbnail, so I had to change it because I'm an idiot. But
Well,
yeah, I want to
those
chat
kind of
more
things
about
easy
Steam
to
Deck.
change.
What's that?
I said that kind of thing's easy to fix though,
Oh, I
and a lot
fixed
of
it right
people
away.
probably, yeah, probably people didn't even notice.
There's always someone. No one gave me a comment on it. So, but anyway, I just put that out today. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But so yeah, like, so what's up next for you? Because I know you got to leave in a few minutes. So what's up
Well,
on your channel?
I'm going to probably be editing, and because like with the Pinball Expo stuff, usually what I'll do is I'll edit the footage together, then I'll
Yeah.
run through doing a voiceover, but then I'll also make a version of it with no voiceover that'll be unlisted that you can only get to if you see the link in the description. I'm also doing a separate video for the pickups that you just saw. So I was really tempted to split the expo stuff up into like several different videos, but I think I'm just gonna keep it as one because there's so
Right.
many different booths. I was like, oh, there. I waited. You know that line that I showed you for Labyrinth to play Labyrinth.
Yeah.
I actually waited in that line to play that game.
Did it take like an hour?
It took like 30 minutes. See, the thing is, I waited in line. I really wasn't paying attention to how much time I was spending in line because I was started just talking to somebody who was in front of me, and we talked the whole time up until, and then when we went up there, we just played against each other.
Yeah. And then you
So,
guys walked away, never to see each other again.
I don't even know who won or not. It didn't even matter.
It doesn't. It doesn't matter, and that's what's the beauty of just video
Especially as
games,
like
right?
the first time either of us were playing the machine, it was just fun to watch. That machine is crazy. Things are popping everywhere out of
Yeah.
that machine, places you would never think about it. Um, and then he was telling me how good Elton John was. So then I waited half an hour in line to play that one too, and
So was
that
it
is a
good?
good one. Yeah, it's really good.
Nice.
Especially since he told me Steve Ritchie designed it. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize he did design it. That means I definitely have to play it because he's my favorite pinball designer.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that's glad. Like, I think I that convention, if it stays like that, I think it's one of those hidden gems because they got arcade games. There's a bit of retro there. There's pinball. Is there like a food court in that there too, or
Well, there's actually a restaurant in the hotel that they're
yeah?
at, but it is super expensive. But the thing is that what we did was about a mile away is the Woodfield Mall, and there's plenty of places to
Oh
eat
yeah,
there.
they've got
And
to
there's
have food
plenty of other
court in
places,
that, right?
and there was not a parking issue like there was at the old place too. So you don't have to worry about like not finding a spot to park when
Oh,
you
if
come
you
back.
leave and come back, right?
Yeah, there was seemed to always be plenty of parking at this new place. The years past, it wasn't bad, but like the rooms were not as big, so it was like everything was divided up into different areas. They had a vendor hall, then you had like a different other halls for just playing pinball. People would bring their games in, and you'd have to jump between room to room to room. Here, everything was just basically in one big giant room, and then you went upstairs, and there were seminars up there, and then like maybe across the hall is where they had a hall for playing all the tournaments and stuff.
Right.
But
That's awesome.
but for most people, you would just be in that one area and spend the whole time there. And they did have a concession stand there, but I told you how expensive things were there.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
but the funny thing is, I was like, I really wanted to try that pizza they had there, and it was like a
Yeah.
little pizza, and it looked good, but like I didn't know how much it was, and so I got that and a bottle of water, and I was expecting them to be like, oh, that'll be like $25 or something, and I was like, oh, it's $13. That sounds like a deal.
Awesome. All right, bud. I'm glad you had fun that weekend.
Yep.
You got editing to do. I got the usual
Yeah,
stuff coming up on the channel. Check out my
I have to see
definitive
what's.
Steam Deck review. It's up on the channel, and
Let's
yeah,
get
I
my
got tons
ID
of
camera,
stuff.
okay? Because
I
I'm
actually
surprised.
got quite a few videos in the pocket that I've got coming up on
I I
over the next
actually
couple
do
weeks.
too, because there's actually I had a video put up the day on Friday when I was at the expo for Pinball FX. I actually have another video for Pinball FX scheduled to go up sometime. It might go up this week, but depending on when I get this video done, I might push it back. But I have stuff that's ready to go that is unusual for me.
Yeah, me too lately. I haven't been planning at all. But I do have a couple videos that'll probably come out this in the next week, at least next 10 days. I don't do nearly as many videos I used to do a long time ago. I do 3 or
Yeah.
4, maybe 2 or 3 a week now, if that. So Anyway, chat, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with Crow and I, and we'll catch you on Game and Stuff next week. We might make this a tradition.
Maybe. Yeah, better tradition than hot dogs.
What do you mean? Hot dogs was good.
Yeah, but
I cut you off.
okay.
Bye, everyone.
All right.